Good Friday evening, everyone. It's Jay of the Effin' Marks. It is episode 331 of your favorite wrestling podcast. Make sure you get a like, a subscribe, and make sure you share this show out. Really appreciate it. Thank you for all the people who tune in every week. Thank you for those who do subscribe and comment on the show. A lot to get into this week. We've got Fastlane predictions. We've got Adam Copeland making his debut in AEW. We have CM Punk rumored to be discussing a return with WWE. We have rumors out there also of Jade Cargill possibly debuting this weekend at Fastlane. That and so much more. All right, well, let's get into it. I discussed it a bit on Wednesday. Edge started his new thing off with AEW at Wrestle Dream last weekend. A lot of people out there were really skeptical that Edge would go to All Elite Wrestling. Many people out there thought Edge was a lifer. He would never, ever leave the WWE. I had outlined after his last match against Sheamus, I thought that perhaps his contract was over with after that match. Apparently there was still time left on the deal, just not more matches. But I thought, before that match, before we knew that he had more time left on the deal, I was like, hey, maybe he shows up at All In. And I listed off a bunch of reasons why I thought that he might want to go to All Elite Wrestling. I mentioned that there are a lot of opponents he's never gone against. I mentioned that his best friend in real life worked there. And I thought those could be possibly compelling reasons for Edge to leave WWE and go be with his friend in AEW. Lo and behold, at Wrestle Dream, as Christian Cage wraps up winning his match against Darby Allin and getting an assist in the match, they start beating on Darby. Then you got Sting coming down to the ring. Sting ends up getting beaten down by Darby or by Christian, Luchasaurus, and what's the other dude's name? Something Wayne. Either way, they're all getting beaten down. Then all of a sudden the lights go out in the place. And you see this video cut together of a person in a muscle car driving down the road. Then you hear you think you know him, and the very, 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 very familiar theme song of Edge, now known as Adam Copeland, plays. Pyro's the same. The entrance is the same. The name's a little different. He's still the Rated R superstar. Adam Copeland is now All Elite. What do you all have to say about that? Mike Rainey, all right, first to admit that he did not think Edge would ever leave WWE. And yeah, Nick Wayne, thank you. Thanks, Mike. I appreciated how Christian kept on referring to Nick Wayne as a good little boy during his Wrestle Dream press conference. All that being said, it felt a little reminiscent of when Edge returned at the Royal Rumble a few years back. You could feel that excitement with him. He had done everything he could in WWE. He's a WWE Hall of Famer. multiple time champion. When he went back to the company a few years ago, he had a solid feud with Randy Orton. He had a really good feud with Seth Franklin Rollins. He had a really good feud with Finn Balor. Now they lost the mark a bit when they put him with the Judgment Day and had him go down that course for about a month. And for some unknown reason, they decided to take Edge out of the Judgment Day when they were undefeated. You have a Hall of Famer who's steering the ship for you, and then you bring in somebody who you had just beaten up to now be part of your new faction. I didn't get it then. I still don't get it now, but it has worked out. The Judgment Day is now, in my view, the hottest faction in all of professional wrestling. The Bloodline is not what it once was, not even what it was, 4 months ago. That storyline definitely is feeling a little bit overcooked now at this point. Bloodline storyline is, like I said, overcooked. But the Judgment Day, on the other hand, that thing just keeps on springing up new stuff. But that, I think, may have been the beginning of the turning point of Edge deciding, like, you know what, maybe this place isn't for me anymore. Maybe when they offered him a new contract, it was kind of more of a dwindled role. Clearly, Edge still thinks he has a good amount of stuff to do within the wrestling industry. Clearly, he could still go pretty dang well. He put on a lot of really good matches in the past couple years. Who could fault the guy for wanting to go wrestle with his best friend and more or less have all the creative freedom he wants and needs? Jericho was a dude who several years ago said, "I'll never wrestle anywhere but WWE." Then he ended up having the match at Wrestle Kingdom against Omega. And that kind of opened up his eyes and, like, you know what? There's still more I could do out there that isn't within this really restrictive WWE environment. And Edge didn't have really any bad things to say about WWE in the press conference after. He said, "Hey, we just had different ideas of what I should be doing, where I should be going." What's going on, Chris Brown? Thank you for tuning in. By the way, the Brainless one has the evening off. He has things that he's got going on that are extremely important and definitely priorities that he needed to be with. So, yeah. How you doing, Jessica? Hope all is well with you this evening. Yeah, Chris Brown, they're saying that Adam Copeland, a.k.a. Edge, is going to be a full-time performer in AEW. He's going to be showing up on Dynamite every week, probably even showing up during the weekends when they have Collision. I'm super happy for him. Hearing him in the post-conference media scrum, hearing him even on Dynamite on Wednesday, he sounds really happy. And a guy like Edge, and this is something I brought up during the short bit I did on Wednesday, more or less, AEW traded in CM Punk for Edge. In my view, if you're talking from the wrestling and being a draw, I'd say you're getting somewhat equal footing as far as drawing power between Punk or Edge, just roughly. But if you're talking about somebody who plays well with others and will cultivate a good kind of locker room feel, help the morale, and help people out, Edge clearly is a much better person and a much better fit. I think he's going to do great things there. What AEW needs to do, Christian is at like the top of his game right now. Edge is still performing at a high level. You got Jericho still performing at a high level. You got Sting who could still do stuff. Don't fall into the trap of WCW where you get all these aging stars that people want to tune in for without creating new stars. The thing is that I feel is different between AEW right now and WCW when Hogan came in, when Nash came in, when Macho Man came in. Hogan clearly was all about himself and was not going to do the honors for like anybody. He was always going into business for himself. That's not Edge. That's certainly not Sting. That's certainly not Jericho. That's certainly not Christian. So you don't have that same overloaded ego going on. And the excitement that Edge has for going and performing with and having matches with these stars that he has never been in the ring with. I love that on Wednesday he teased that he's going to go after MJF. Actually, he teased going again after the AEW World title. Right now, that title holder is MJF. I'd love to see that match. As much as Brainless One hates Kenny Omega, I think Kenny Omega happens to be a really good performer, and I want to see Edge versus Kenny Omega. I'm sorry, Adam Copeland versus Kenny Omega. I think it'd be great. So that's that. All right, just going back in the chat here, Mike Rainey, I need to get your opinion on something. I'm hearing conflicting reports on whether or not CM Punk is coming back to WWE. Any truth to the rumor? I've seen it reported in a couple of places, so I'm going to say where there's smoke, there's fire. I believe CM Punk probably has contacted WWE. In the reports I've read, sounds like his intention is to sign with WWE. If he has an intention to sign with WWE and they're talking, he will show up in WWE. I've stated my opinion on Punk, and I will state it again. I don't think they should sign him. He walked out on the company before. He kind of sort of walked out on AEW twice and caused a whole bunch of issues. I think WWE is a little bit more suited to be able to deal with the issues that Punk could bring than AEW. Their management structure is just far stronger. And if he gets out of line, there are people there that will put him back into line. All that being said, I wouldn't want the headache. Just my opinion. If Punk goes there, when he did his documentary, I want to say it was like 2013 or 2014, or probably 2013. You know, the one thing he said is he is a goal-oriented person in that he wants to main event WrestleMania. He proves that he can still go, he can still talk to the audience, and he can still get people invested in him. Can he still get there? Can he still main event night 2 of WrestleMania? Maybe. Again, I wouldn't sign him back. But WWE, if they see money in him, I think that they'll probably sign him because, you know, Endeavor, the new company, they paid a lot of money for WWE, and any money they can make back on their investment, they are going to take. So I think it's a high likelihood we see CM Punk back in a WWE ring, and I'd say good luck to them. So Yeah, Chris, WWE has kind of put it out there. They've been trying to focus on younger free agents. All that being said, if you sign CM Punk, he's not a younger free agent. I know that they're looking at probably people like Wardlow. I would say they'll probably even try to tempt Miro back. I think there are a bunch of people on the AEW roster that wouldn't mind jumping ship. And I don't think there are too many people in NXT that are itching to go to AEW. So they may have to depend on the independent circuit. They may have to, use some of the folks from the Ring of Honor roster. There's also been some unsubstantiated rumors that possibly Tony Khan is buying New Japan Pro Wrestling. I don't put a ton of stock in that, but if you want to grow the company and you don't think you could get outside free agents, younger free agents to come in, well, if you buy a new company like New Japan, you now have a different pipeline where you could bring people in. Maybe that's a way to do it. I'm sure there are a lot of things going on behind the scenes we don't know about. But as a wrestling fan, I'm super excited to see what's coming up next and just the different styles that we're able to see now and the different matches we're able to see now. Another thing I definitely want to bring up about this, the NXT this week outdrew Dynamite. Now, they were on different days. NXT's big draw this week was they were having a North American title match. Dom Mysterio, Dirty Dom, had lost the title, and they were kind of teasing possible, like, Dom being ejected from the Spooky Pals if he didn't win the match. That more or less is what Rhea Ripley told him. And lo and behold, Dirty Dom wins back the NXT North American title with an assist from the Spooky Pals. A lot of times, I dislike when they hot potato a title. My caveat to that is if it's part of furthering a storyline, I'll take it. In this case right here, it moved the storyline forward for the Spooky Pals. Is Dom going to be cut out? And he wins it back. And that was, again, a big draw and outdrew Dynamite. Dynamite ended up winning in the 18 to 49 age demographic for the night. But as far as overall viewers, NXT actually won. So good on NXT. And they're actually going to face off head-to-head this week in part. Dynamite is actually going to be on Tuesday, and I believe they're calling it Title Tuesday, and it's also going to be the debut of Adam Copeland as a performer in the ring, and he's going against Dino Man. Dino Man is another person that Adam Copeland said that he wanted to wrestle and thought that he could help out and make him a better performer. There ain't no way in hell Adam Copeland is losing this match unless there's some sort of DQ or some crazy thing that goes on. You can't have him lose the first match, right? The end game for this is Christian Cage versus Adam Copeland. What they did on Wednesday for this was beautiful. Adam Copeland came out, said his story one more time, said it was the last time, that he wanted to finish out his career with his best friend. And he called out his best friend. You know, Edge gave an impassioned plea of why he and Christian need to have one more run to prove that they're the best of the best of the tag teams that have happened in professional wrestling history. And it seemed like Christian, had a reaction, was feeling good about what Adam Copeland said, and they opened up, they embraced, and Christian, being the best heel in the business today, says into the microphone, "Go yourself." Can I tell you how much I love Christian? When he signed that contract a couple of years ago, when they made a big deal out of it, a lot of people were kind of scoffing at it. It's like, oh, nah, it's just Christian. He's nice, but who's laughing now? Or as Christian said during the post Wrestle Dream press conference, yes, bring me my flowers. Freaking awesome. I love him. I love him. It so good. So good. All right. Trying to catch up with all your comments here. All right, Mike Rainey saying he fully agrees with my comments on Punk, but has a friend at work who says he doesn't believe that Punk will cause any problems. It's certainly possible. I guess we'll possibly find out starting at Survivor Series. Chris Brown also chiming in about the CM Punk thing, possibly getting that main event spot at WrestleMania. Now, that's something where he would have to invest at least a few years in the company before I think he could get to that spot. Is he going to do that? Is he going to play ball for that long? If he's not getting what he wants when he wants it, I guess we'll find out how bad he wants that. Tim talking about how they're dropping hints about that in promo segments. Again, I mean, we're talking a month and a half until Survivor Series, so we may see it. Yeah, Ricky Starks would be a good name to add to the roster for WWE. A good young talent who could go in the ring pretty well. He could speak well. He has so much potential. He's already really good, and you could tell that there's going to be like another 2 or 3 gears on every side of him that he goes up. And if I were Tony Khan, I would do all I could to keep that man happy and in my company. That's the type of person that you can build around. I don't think somebody like Sammy Guevara, who they refer to as a pillar, would be somebody good to build around. I don't think that Jungle Boy would be somebody good to build around. I don't even think Darby is that good of an idea to build around. He's a small dude who's already beaten the hell out of his body. I don't see him lasting a super long time. But a guy like Ricky Starks, hell yeah. I think they should treat Powerhouse Hobbs better. That there's a lot of potential in guys like that. And those are guys you could build around. And maybe Tony will get his head out of the coke pile and out of his ass long enough to see that and realize that he kind of has to start building that. And Chris Brown saying about the Tony Khan rumor, only way that works is if his old man opens the wallet, especially all the talk of Mercedes Moné / Sasha Banks showing up in AEW for a match. So one of those things is, Mercedes has come out and said, "Hey, I'm available, for Full Gear. We just gotta talk and figure it out." Whether or not she's actually healed from the injury that she had a few months ago, I think it was at Wrestle Kingdom. I could be wrong, but if she's healed, I mean, I put her in the same level as CM Punk. I would not sign that person, and I would keep as far away as possible because she has walked out on her company. She walked out in WWE twice. When things aren't going her way in AEW, is she going to do the same thing? I would say yes. And I think she'll cause more chaos in the women's division than she's worth. That's just my opinion. And speaking of injuries, and I think specifically with Mercedes, she had an ankle injury. Adam Cole gave an update on his ankle injury, and it's not good. It sounds like he's going to be out for an extended period of time. Sounds like he's going to have screws and other things put into his ankle, and it sounds like I think he's going to need multiple surgeries. So he's going to be out for a little while. And I know a couple weeks ago when the injury first happened, maybe this is a blessing in disguise for him. It's not great that people are injured. But the severity of the concussion that he dealt with, having more time off can't be bad. I think it'll help, the brain injury that he got at Forbidden Door, help it heal even more. I mean, we know so little about brain injuries. We know that long term, a lot of these people who have dealt with a lot of brain injuries have severe problems later in life. I just want to make sure that these people live long and healthy lives after their career's over. So as much as this really sucks for Cole because he and MJF were, lighting things on fire, I think this could be good for the person outside of the ring. But I want to see him back in the ring. I want to see him happy and whole. And I want to see Adam Cole, baby, do it again. He's just so charismatic and so talented. No way he doesn't. All right, Mike Rainey saying, Dom winning the North American title is my brainless. It didn't make sense to me to have him winning it back this quickly. All right. Mike Rainey saying, I'm first to admit I was skeptical when Christian went over to Redacted. He's knocking it out of the ballpark, so I'm actually liking what he's doing now over there. Again, with Christian, he was one of those dudes back in 2014 that randomly on Raw, I think it was Jerry the King Lawler said, oh yeah, and Christian's retired. They never did any sort of ceremony. They never did anything to announce the retirement. It was just a throwaway line. And nobody ever talked about what had happened. Slowly, it sort of leaked out. Okay, maybe he had been dealing with some concussions, and he had gotten a lot of concussions over the years, and WWE wasn't going to allow him in the ring again. He ended up, with 7 years off before he had another opportunity where he ended up in the Royal Rumble, and a few months later, we saw him sign his contract. And like Mike Rainey said, knocking it out of the park. I mean, he is the best heel, in my view, in the business by a country mile. If he was on WWE TV right now, I'd love to see him and LA Knight go at it. The verbal sparring would be great. The fact that Christian just looks like a pissed off dad at every moment. He's so good at remaining in character, even when you could tell he was legit getting emotional about what Adam Copeland was saying on Wednesday. He never once really legit broke character. He just stayed in it. So, yeah, as far as their younger wrestlers and treating them better and getting people to stick around, House of Black has some pieces that you could build off of. You know, they got the trios titles, and I think Malachi kind of would hope to, I think, get a little bit more of a singles push. I don't foresee him getting that until House of Black loses those trios titles, but then they stay as a faction, they still stay moving forward, but Malachi has Buddy as backup, and I'm blanking on the other dude's name. Why can't I remember it? Anyway, House of Black definitely could be something you could build around. I don't know if AEW is staying away from it because they look too similar to the Judgment Day or feel similar to the Judgment Day. All that being said, House of Black started first. Yes, I agree, Tim. Fuck Sasha Banks. All right, Chris Brown saying Adam Cole, it's screws in 3 plates, and Sammy Guevara also suffered a concussion recently as well. Brody King, thank you so much. You know, as I get a little older, sometimes the brain isn't remembering things quite as quickly. So, all right. One thing that did happen this Monday on Raw is we got the reunion of DIY. If you were not a person that tuned into the original Black and Gold 5 or 6 years ago, this meant nothing to you. But if you're like me and watched NXT Black and Gold pretty religiously, this was huge. DIY was one of the best things down there. The stuff they did with FTR down in NXT was amazing. Every match they had was top notch. And they had DIY chase and chase and chase. And when they finally won it, it was like, you're so happy for these dudes. And when you know that both Ciampa and Gargano were people WWE really didn't have a lot of hope for or faith in, but they just clawed their way in just by the skin of their fingers. And then after that, they clawed and scratched and made their way up the card, combining forces, because they had that match in the Cruiserweight Classic that was epic. But they kept on clawing and clawing and clawing, and you could tell there was a chemistry with these two dudes. And then they became the best thing about NXT. They won the tag titles finally. And then Ciampa ends up turning on Gargano. And they had like one of the best feuds I've ever seen, because it was a blood feud between, brothers in arms. And Ciampa was one of the greatest heels. And what he did and how they did that, it was so good. And Ciampa ended up going out with a neck injury. And when he came back, and like all that storytelling, all that stuff was so good. And as much as Gargano really hasn't gotten rolling on the main roster. There was a point where Ciampa was kind of starting to get a little traction, and then he got injured. I think both of them are well now and could be a huge asset in the tag division. Having them be a legit team, having them have that chemistry, they're going to have great matches. I hope they don't turn them into like tag team Dolph Ziggler or tag team AJ Styles where they're made to shine everybody up. I want them to give these two dudes a shot. I want these two dudes to be stars on the main roster. And with a guy like Ciampa, with all the injuries he's dealt with in the past handful of years and with how long he's been wrestling, being in the tag team will lessen the bumps on him and lengthen his career. I think that's a great idea. And you'll get great matches and you'll get really good promos and storylines with them. So, yeah. You're right, Mike Rainey. About damn time for the DIY reunion. It was supposed to happen when Raw had gone to Cleveland in June. For whatever reason, they called it off at the last minute. And Gargano has been cleared medically to perform since like April. So he's been sitting on the sidelines, twiddling his thumb, waiting for the opportunity. 6 months go by. Now finally he's got it. I hope they give them the opportunity to truly seize it because they are great. All right, Chris Brown saying, I see DIY getting the title sometime after the new year. That would take some serious building. Now, are you saying sometime soon after the new year, or are you talking like 2024 in general, like whether it ends up being December of 2024, or are you talking SummerSlam 2024? Are you talking WrestleMania? Or are you talking Royal Rumble? Certainly a big difference from if they win it in January versus if they win it in August. Or if they win it, let's say, when they go to Saudi Arabia in November of 2024. I think they can be champions. I think we've got storylines that still need to play out. I don't see the Spooky Pals losing titles super soon. Spoiler alert. All right. Okay. All right. Chris Brown saying Royal Rumble or WrestleMania at the absolute latest for DIY. We shall see. Hopefully they build them up in a way that will make that work. They've certainly slowly but surely built up the tag division. Some of the makeshift team things they got going on, I'm not a huge fan of, but they do have a decent roster of teams at this point that they could work with. One team they won't be dealing with is Viking Raiders. Viking Raiders, Eric is dealing with an injury. I forget what that injury is. I think it's a shoulder thing. But it sounds like he is going to be out for a while. Doesn't sound like Ivar should be expecting his tag partner back anytime soon. And it sounds like maybe he'll be doing single stuff, but I don't see him as a big single star. I don't think the company sees him as a big single star. Unless they kind of change his character and make him go forward in a different way, I see not much of a push. I think we see him on main event a whole bunch and used as enhancement talent mostly. And when his partner gets back, I hope they put them back in the title mix because I love the Viking Raiders. Their song, if you've ever gone to a live show with the Viking Raiders on, when their song hits, I mean, it's like they have a really cool entrance. They're really good in the ring for two big men. They move well, and there's something unique. So there's that. Another person who's kind of been underutilized, although he's been given shots since he came back, was one Karrion Kross. We haven't seen him on TV for a bit. It sounds like maybe he might have something with John Cena going on. He's definitely hinting at coming back, and we're going to see him sooner rather than later. They've definitely given him high-profile opponents since he's come back. He hasn't caught on with anything yet. And 250, 260-pound dudes don't grow on trees. He could go pretty well in the ring. He could speak pretty well, but again, you got to be able to connect with the audience. At this point, he hasn't. He connected well with the NXT audience. He has to figure out that thing that will make him unique, that the main roster audience will sink their teeth into and really dig what he's doing, because to an extent, he felt like Bray Wyatt light. He had Scarlett, which was something a bit different than what Bray was doing, but he felt like a less good Bray Wyatt. Yeah, Chris Brown, Cena versus Roman at Crown Jewel is something that is rumored. You know, we saw that match, I think it was SummerSlam 2021. It's been a little while. Cena at this point has a couple of matches under his belt, probably building up his win, probably building up his rhythm, and probably building up his timing once again. I wouldn't mind seeing Roman and Cena again, since it's been, a couple years at this point. And I think we'll get a better match out of Cena than we did at WrestleMania. And at this point, who else do you have for Roman? You got somebody like Lashley, who is finally going to make an in-ring return tonight. He's also going to have a match with the Street Profits tomorrow for Fastlane. They've been trying to build that faction to be something. There's a guy like Lashley out there that has not gone against Reigns in this massive, incredible title reign that he's had. Other than that, who do you have waiting in the wings that he hasn't already beaten? In my view, the only person out there is like Seth Rollins. Rollins is the champion on the other show. So that's not going to happen anytime soon. They would have to build up somebody new, or if part of getting Jey Uso to Monday Night Raw requires a trade, if they trade Cody over to SmackDown, that could reignite Cody versus Roman. And again, that felt like unfinished business at the end of WrestleMania 39. Yes, Tim. John Cena will be the new Eater of Pins. He's doing the honors an awful lot these days. And, he's just giving back to the industry, who's given so much to him. It's given him the life he has. It's opened the doors to Hollywood to be able to have a career after pro wrestling. He loves wrestling, but he has specifically said, hey, when I'm starting to slow down and can't hang with the young kids, I'll know when it's time to get out. I think he realizes the door is closing and he's going to enjoy it for as long as he can. The writer's strike is ended. I don't think the actor's strike is ended, but usually these things will follow suit because guess what? You have to write something before you can have actors ready. So I think it'll be another couple of months before that, and it takes time to write stuff. So I think we might get a little bit more Cena before he goes back to Hollywood. That's right. Grayson Waller did give Edge the rub on his way out. You know, the biggest star in all of SmackDown and all of WWE, Grayson Waller, given the rub. Good stuff. So LA Knight this weekend will be teaming with one John Cena and going against the Bloodline. And LA Knight, once again, is top merch seller over Roman Reigns, over Cody Rhodes, over John Cena, over Stone Cold Steve Austin. If LA Knight keeps this up, LA Knight will be a World Heavyweight Champion. LA Knight will be able to sign a very lucrative next contract with WWE. As much as WWE has talked about signing younger free agents, they would be very smart to keep LA Knight in their house. The dude has so much damn charisma. I know a lot of people compare him to The Rock. A lot of people compare him like he's a fusion of The Rock and Stone Cold. But if you're looking career trajectory at this point, it's more similar to DDP. DDP did not get that first World Heavyweight title reign until he was 42. LA Knight has been a scrapper. Almost gave up, didn't give up, and has just kept on doing his thing. Everywhere he is allowed to, he gets over. Let me talk to you. Yeah, dummy. Yeah. By the way, tonight's podcast brought to you by Malort. Malort. If you've never had it, you probably shouldn't try it. It tastes like your gym bag on a 100-degree day with your sweat-filled gym clothes, and then you've wrung it out into a glass. That's what this is. But this is an homage to Chicago. Malort is a Chicago beverage. It's an ode to Dick Butkus. R.I.P. Dick Butkus. Also, my friend Pat, who's from Chicago. And not CM Punk. Yeah. All right, so Mike Rainey, apparently you and I disagree about Dom Mysterio and what they did with the North American title. Part of this clearly was a ratings thing. Part of this was to add a little bit of mystery, a little bit of a new seed of stuff going on with the Judgment Day. As much as I don't like when it crisscrosses that quickly, I kind of understood it, what they did. And this is one of the few instances for me where I'm like, okay, I get it. This wasn't like losing the title for the sake of losing the title. This was, okay, we're going to add this as part of the storyline, and we're going to pretend that maybe Dominic may get booted out of the Judgment Day. Oh, there you go, Chris Brown. Also to you, sir. Chicago, Malort. And also F and Mark's Hall of Famer, Don't Eat Brown Snow, also from the Chicago area. So Yeah. So another thing I want to bring up ever so briefly is one, Tammy, Sonny, Sitch. The judge in her case has labeled her. Let's see, do I have it right? A danger to society. The judge in this case, Sonny can get up to. I saw one report saying 25 years, another report saying 26 years. Put her away as long as you can. She has gotten chance after chance after chance after chance, and somebody died because of all the chances she's been given. She's not only clearly a menace to society, she is a menace to herself. I hope she gets herself together. I hope she gets clean. I hope she pulls her life together. But I don't think she needs to do that within a society of free people, because she makes everybody else unsafe. I wish I could say something different about her, but she proves over and over again that being out in the real world is not a good place for her. I hope she gets her crap together. Speaking of another person that needs to get their crap together is one Matt Riddle. Supposedly, there is interest from several organizations to have Matt Riddle be an MMA performer again. They did not explicitly say UFC, but they said there were several major MMA organizations interested in bringing him in. If I were to guess, I'm going to say not UFC, but I'm going to say Bellator is one that would want to bring him in. I'm wondering if the Saudis, with that thing that they have with Bobby Fish, where they do like boxing matches, I'm wondering if that's something Riddle would show up for. Either way, I want the dude to get his stuff together because he has a family out there. His family deserves to be taken care of, and he needs to get his shit together. The video that they've shown from JFK Airport, it's like going, no, this dude doesn't have it together. Clearly, all the stuff that's gone on in his life in the past couple of years has not been good. He was saying, what was it, about a year ago? I haven't felt this free. I haven't felt this good in so long. You know what happens when you have like unlimited freedom? You end up chaining yourself a lot of times to habits and addictions. And then you actually put yourself in your own prison. And you don't realize it until it's too late sometimes. I want him to unlock the key to the prison that he's created for himself and be a healthy person. Yeah. Mike Rainey saying, I have a sick feeling in the pit of my stomach that prison will be the end of her. If you know what I mean. Tammy has been a train wreck ever since Chris Candido passed away. I think I agree with you, Mike. I hope that's not the case. But, you know, it's like clear being in society, again, where she has virtually unlimited freedom. She does not have self-control to control her own vices and the problems that it causes, not just for her, but society in general. It's just a bummer. Just a bummer. Yeah, Jess, I think DDP could help a dude like him, maybe. But the thing is Riddle is actually in super good shape, but his, like, as far as body goes, but his mind is so messed up. And I think DDP is more of like, I'll help the body and the body will help the mind. And I don't know if he could reach him. Now, if it's like, hey, I could help get him clean of alcohol, I think DDP can do that. I don't think Riddle needs to necessarily get into the stretching and get into the focus and all that, because clearly the dude puts in work at the gym and keeps himself healthy as far as the body goes. We shall see. Time will tell with this, and time will tell with all. Yeah. Is it out of the realm of possibility that alcohol is doing to wrestlers in general what crack did to the business in the 80s? They're different things, Chris, but alcohol ain't a thing to mess with. And I think in general, the health of the performers these days is at a higher level. As much as some of the old timers are like, oh, back in my day, we did this, this, and this. It's like, well, how many of you are alive still today? How many of you actually lived a long life? I think there's more hope that in 30 or 40 years, most of this generation of wrestlers will still be here. I think there might be a handful, but you got a dude like Bret Hart, who, heck, I think it was a decade and a half ago, talked about, I thought I was going to grow old with my friends that I wrestled with. I'm the only one left. I think there's going to be more performers that make it to a longer, riper old age. That's my hope. That's my belief. I think some stuff like what WWE does by paying for rehab is helpful for that. I think hearing the old stories of guys like Jake Roberts, Jake who understood later in life the destructiveness of what he was doing to not only himself, but to his family and the people he was in the ring with. I think it's gotten through to some people. Seeing some of the stories on Dark Side of the Ring, I hope it gets through to people. As much as it's an interesting story, it's kind of sad. Hearing the stories about Andre the Giant, like, had to drink so much because he had to take his mind and numb himself from all the crap going on in his life, that just, yeah. Mike Rainey, as far as Buff Bagwell goes, it was a couple of months ago that there was allegations that maybe Buff had fallen off the wagon. DDP kind of came out quickly and said, no. He's still sober. He's still doing all right. They were claiming, nothing more has been reported on this, but they were claiming that Buff ended up getting pulled over, and I think he had gone either out of county or out of state, and it violated his probation. For whatever reason, somebody was trying to say that he had a new DUI. What it sounds like happened, again, according to Buff, and it sounds like what DDP said was backing him up. He was pulled over, and based on the probation from the DUI, that's why some people believe that he got a new DUI. I have a tendency to believe, because DDP is backing him up, because I don't think DDP is a bullshitter about sobriety. I think Buff is still on the wagon, so this would mean that he should be over a year clean, and good for him. He's a dude who really was going down a dark path, dark road for quite a while. I think he got his crap together. I hope he got his crap together. And as much as it seemed like maybe he wasn't the best dude, you know, you could change. You could turn your life around a moment at a time, a day at a time. And, you know, I've seen things like this where when somebody gets clean of that stuff, the person that they were on the stuff is not the person that they are without the stuff. And Buff is probably getting to relearn who he is without the stuff. And it takes a while to reclaim yourself. And I think he'll come back stronger and be a better person and do hopefully good things. Maybe he'll clean himself up enough to become like a coach in wrestling. He may come out at some point and do a spot and get physical, whether it be a Royal Rumble or something else. But I think he's got his stuff together, and I hope he continues on that path. All right, all that being said, let's get into some predictions for Fastlane. It is not a big card, but I'm actually pretty interested in all these matches. I think they've done a pretty good job of building up some anticipation within me, a cynical, longtime wrestling fan. All right, we have the LWO going against Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits. Lashley and the Street Profits need to win. They are a new faction, and I think they could do really great things. This is the Street Profits, you know, becoming heel for the first time in a while. For the most part, on the main roster, they've been faces. I want to see them like Darth Vader evil. I want to see them dominate. I want to see them be a force to be reckoned with. They need to win this. I think they need to win this really convincingly, and I think they do. All right, Chris Brown agreeing with me. Lashley and Street Profits. Mike Rainey also agreeing. Lashley and Street Profits. Brainless One also agrees. Lashley and Street Profits. All right, then we have the Spooky Pals with the Undisputed Tag Team Championships going against Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso. I'm not a big fan of makeshift tag teams. What they've done here to bring Cody and Jey together makes sense. The Spooky Pals needed somebody to go against, somebody fresh, somebody new, somebody not DIY, because DIY needs to be built up to something to the audience that's watching Monday Night Raw. Spooky Pals need to win this match, in my view. They're so hot right now. There's no reason to stop the train from rolling. I know that Priest has the Money in the Bank briefcase, and he could cash that in at any time. Quite honestly, he could possibly cash in, like, once the last man standing match ends, whoever is left standing, I don't see it out of the realm of possibility that he wins that title. Spooky Pals could lose the match, and then Damian could go and cash in later in the night. a lot of ways they could do this, but I don't see them taking the undisputed tag titles off them to give it to Cody and Jay. I don't like the idea of putting it on a new makeshift tag team versus a faction that's been together for the past, year and a half, 2 years. All right, Chris Brown going a little bit different. Cody and Jay win by DQ. Priest costs them the match. Finn and Rhea get pissed and say there's consequences on Raw. Okay, so you're sowing the seeds of doubt in the breakup of the Spooky Pals. Now, Chris, with this, are you saying that they more or less will exchange JD McDonough for Damian Priest? And if you do that, like if you're in the Judgment Day, do you trade out somebody who will most likely become a world heavyweight champion in the next 10 months? I mean, it seems silly unless you want to have Priest win that title and then he'll have an immediate feud with like Finn Balor or somebody within the Judgment Day. That could be another way they do it. I just don't think now is the time. We have other factions that are like kind of breaking up. The Bloodline's been breaking in pieces for a bit. So, all right. I hear you. I hear you, Chris Brown. All right. But I believe Spooky Pals win this. That's my belief. All right. Then we have the triple threat match between Io Sky, Charlotte Flair, and Asuka. This is for the Women's Championship. Asuka stated a couple of months ago that her time is running out in WWE. Whether or not this is a ploy to get a bigger contract, or if this is legit, the end of her run, she thinks she's come to the end of her. She's had an incredible run on the main roster, had an incredible run in NXT. If this is the end of her, she's certainly going to eat the pin. Even if it isn't the end of her, I think she's eating the pin. The biggest question for me in this, does Jade Cargill get involved? There have been inklings, rumors, innuendos put out there that she may be making her debut at Fastlane. We have not seen her on any advertisement as of yet. Do we get her in this match, and does she help one way or another somebody to win? Or does she attack somebody specifically to start a new feud? It's not out of the realm of possibility that Jade immediately goes and attacks Charlotte. I don't think it's a great idea. I think Jade should start small and have like some squash matches and build up her credibility with that audience. But there's also a frame of thought out there that go after the big fish, go after somebody like Charlotte, have a really good showing where it shows that you can hang with the best of the best in the women's division, and then you move on from there. I would say kind of a la what they did with Cody and Seth. Could it happen? Maybe. What I think will happen, I think Io retains. And I do think Jade is going to get involved, and it's going to be because of Jade's involvement that Io retains. Whether or not it's attacking Charlotte or whether or not it's laying out Asuka, it could be a thing where she costs Asuka. And then Asuka, on her way out, does the honors for Jade. I think I like that better than her going against Charlotte right away. So I'm going to say Io retains. All right, Chris Brown saying he wants Asuka to get it back, and makes a ton of sense since Kairi Sane is coming back soon. Mike Rainey saying, unfortunately, I think Charlotte wins the title. I enjoy the fact that we have all decided to disagree with each other as far as who wins, except for I am agreeing, actually, with the brainless one. The brainless one has Io Sky. Chris Brown saying Jade will appear at the top of the ramp at the end of the match for shock value. I don't see that as out of the realm of possibility. They could go an awful lot of ways here. All right, so we have Seth Franklin Rollins going against Shinsuke Nakamura in a last man standing match. I think it's interesting the way they've done the build to this program, where the champion is the one chasing the challenger. Where, like, the person who won the last match almost feels like they didn't win, and they're so like, no, I feel like this person's getting the better of me, and I can't deal with that as a performer, as a professional, as somebody that is a champion. I've enjoyed that. I've enjoyed the fact that Nakamura is more sinister. This is the best version of Nakamura we've had in WWE. Will that be enough for them to put the title on him? I don't think so. I'm going to go with Seth Rollins. I think he retains and keeps going forward. As much as there's part of me that thinks if he gets beaten and is able to go out and actually rest and heal up some of his injuries, Rollins is a warrior, knows where his spot is right now, knows that he's probably the hottest he's been in his career, and does not want that white hot glow to be snuffed out. I think Rollins ends up winning, and I think this is a classic match. I think this is match of the night. I'm going with Seth Franklin Rollins. Brainless one is going with Shinsuke Nakamura in this one. All right, Mike Rainey agreeing with me with Seth Franklin Rollins. But after the match, he's saying Shinsuke attacks Rollins afterwards to the point where they write Rollins off TV for a while. That could happen. All right, Chris Brown also saying that Priest comes out threatening to cash in, but based off what happens tonight, he hesitates. Okay. And the main event of the evening, we have Solo Sikoa and Jimmy Uso versus John Cena and LA Knight. Yeah! Yeah! I don't think there's any way that the Bloodline wins this match. Cena and LA Knight have to win. To me, this is the lock. As much as Lashley and the Street Profits should have been the lock, this is my lock of the night. Cena and LA Knight winning this. Heck, main event Jey Uso is also on this card, and maybe he gets a little bit involved with his family and does something. I know they tried to going, oh, yep, this is over. He quit because he doesn't want to deal with his family. Maybe he just does do something with his family at the end. But yeah. All right, Mike Rainey, Cena, and LA Knight. All right. And also Brainless One picked Cena and LA Knight as well. All right, so that is your Fastlane card. So that is happening. I believe it's tomorrow night. I could be mistaken. I'm glad that they've done mostly Saturday pay-per-views at this point. It's one of those things clearly now. They're doing it to compete with Collision. They did a lot of damage to Collision when SummerSlam was Saturday night. Collision was getting, like 750,000 people to tune in. Basically, since SummerSlam, they've been struggling to get up to 500,000. All right, Chris Brown saying it'll be Knight and Cena, but I'm also predicting a Roman sighting to set up for Roman and Cena at Blood Money. And yes, Fastlane is tomorrow. Okay. Good stuff. All right, now it's time for our good, our bad, and our brainless. There are lots of really good, really solid things that happened in this past week of professional wrestling. We had an incredible match with Bryan Danielson and Zack Sabre Jr. We had a really compelling story and match with Darby Allin and Christian Cage. But I'm going with the chalk here. Edge as Adam Copeland making his debut in AEW. And it wasn't just that. It's what happened going into the press conference after Wrestle Dream, and then what happened with he and Christian on Dynamite. They're setting up a long-term story. This story it's already got a 40-year arc, and they're going to carry this on for a while longer. The stuff that Christian said during the press conference about, I only have one friend, Luchasaurus. Oh, yeah, I didn't feel too much when I saw him. To when he told him to go F himself on Dynamite. I'm glad that we're going to get to see potentially MJF versus Adam Copeland. I'm proud to say that I will be happy to see Kenny Omega versus Adam Copeland. I want to see Adam Cole, baby, at some point versus Adam Copeland. There are a lot of matches I want to see him have that we haven't had the privilege of doing yet, and he could still go in the ring and still tell stories with the best of them. That's my good for this week. All right, SmackDown kicking off with LA Knight. Yeah. All right. My bad this week is going out to the USA Network. NXT has been having vignettes and mysteriously promoting a new superstar that was going to be debuting soon. USA Network put out a thing telling the world it's going to be Brian Pillman Jr. Talk, people. Talk. Yeah. All right, Mike Rainey saying Adam Copeland is my good. Letting Adam Copeland leave for AEW is my bad because I still feel they could have done more with Edge. But I digress. All right. In my brain list this week, I am going outside the realm of professional wrestling. I don't like to do this very often, but this time I feel it's freaking warranted. I am a Boston Red Sox fan. I have been since I can remember. This past week, Tim Wakefield, who was a Boston Red Sox for over a decade, he passed away from brain cancer. his former teammate, Curt Schilling, a handful of days before the man died, went out on a damn podcast and spoke about Tim Wakefield's cancer. Tim Wakefield is a person who was dealing with this privately. His family was dealing with it privately. They specifically didn't say anything to anybody. And you on your podcast announced to the damn world about that. Then this man and his family have to answer because of your big effing mouth. This was something they wanted to deal with internally. But they had to put out a damn press release saying, we thank you all for your thoughts and prayers about this personal family matter that we were dealing with in private. What a piece of garbage. Curt Schilling, that's brainless, that's tasteless, and a bunch of crap. I used to respect you. You were a hard worker and you did a lot of good things on the mound for the Red Sox, but you are just a dirtbag as a human being. Why couldn't you let the dude die with dignity and in the peace that he wanted? He had to respond to the shit you said. Hours away from dying, and he had to respond because you did that. How selfish. You suck, man. You suck. And that is my brainless for this week. Anyway, if you like what you've seen, make sure you give a like, subscribe on all social media outlets at the FNMARKS, the Effin Marks. Brainless One and I will be back next Friday with the podcast. We will most likely do something in the middle of the week also to at least give a little teaser and taster for what we will talk about. So, yeah. And make sure you set up notifications so that when we go live, whether it's on the YouTube or whether it's on the Facebook, that you'll be notified that we are live so you can join in on the conversation of our favorite sport that we all love to hate, professional wrestling. Yeah. Anyway, I think that's about it. Oh, wait. I don't even know if I can find my version of it. No matter. There is that one thing that's left. One thing that's left. That's always left at the show. At the end. Closing out episode 331 in style. Did you know that today, October 6th of 2023, the Effin Marks Hall of Famer Curtis Axel has now been alive in the 2015 Royal Rumble for 3,176 freaking days. Holy crap. Even better than Bruno Sammartino. You gotta love it. All right. So for episode 331 of the Effin Marks podcast, I am Jay. Make sure you mark out with your guac out. See you, everyone. Enjoy SmackDown. Enjoy Fastlane. Enjoy Collision. Enjoy all the wrestling we get this week. And a reminder that Dynamite is on Tuesday at 7. Have a great week, everybody. I'll catch you later.